Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar from Annika Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley, and Katie who are hosting, and we have got the lovely Angie Padfield.
Hello.
Angie Padfield, who's head of a new business and client services, and she's going to be taking over and telling us all about sales. So good morning, Ange.
Good morning, Anne.
It's been a while since you've done one of these, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yes. So looking forward to it. Hopefully, the thing is, if people are in sales, it's a bit of a refresher probably. But for people who aren't, it gives you much more of an insight as to what sales is all about. Yeah, looking forward to it, Anne.
And we were hoping that you're going to have a partner in crime, but unfortunately it sounds like Matt's got COVID, so I hope he's okay. Now, what we're going to do is we think the sound is working okay. There's a few people that have already messaged. The normal process is that Katie's going to run through the poll. I'm going to turn my camera off in a second, and Katie's going to do the poll, and then she'll hand over to Ange. We'll be lurking in the background answering questions. I'll load the handouts in just a second, and you'll be able to go and help yourself to the slides. I'll do that once we get going. And the recording will be available in a couple of hours. So you'll be able to access the recording later on. So over to you, Katie.
Okay, I hope you can all see that. So would you say that you are in sales? Yes, I have a sales role and a sales job title. B, I work in BD, business development, but not in sales specifically. I work closely with sales, but I'm not directly involved with sales targets. No, but it really interests me. And then E, I am currently a student and I'm interested in sales. And so far, 67% are in sales, Ange.
Okay.
Oh, we know it's hovering. Oh, it's moved now. 38%. 25% see themselves in BD, but not sales specifically, although obviously they're very intertwined. And then someone else saying, I work closely with the sales team, but I'm not, directly involved with sales. And someone else just said, no, I'm not, but it really interests me. So that's 20%. So now, it's all moved around.
Okay.
I couldn't keep up today.
It's interesting because
widespread.
The reason I asked that question in the poll is because in my head, we're all in sales, and we're all in sales when we just meet anybody, down the pub or anything, because we're selling ourselves. And everyone that even goes for an interview, you're selling yourself. And if you do work for a business, then you've got a responsibility to be an ambassador for that business, which includes coming across well, which is the same as selling. So in my head,
it's a life skill, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to turn my camera off. I'll let you guys get on, and I'll be looking, but I have shared the slides, and I'll be lurking in the background in case there's any questions. So I'll see you guys in a bit.
I'm turning my camera off, Ange, but I will be helping out and adding lib if you need me to.
That's great. Thanks, Katie.
And if anyone's got any questions, please put them into the chat, and then we'll make it really interactive this morning. Okay, see you in a minute.
Thanks, Katie. Now, I won't be able to see the screen because I'll have my slides with my notes up, so I won't be able to see the questions, but I can just see the first question come in actually from you, Claire. Does selling your own products count as being in sales? Absolutely. I don't know whether you sell to other businesses so that they can then resell your products, or whether you sell them yourself, I don't know, on a market stall, for example. But it absolutely counts as selling, being in sales yourself. That's what I would say about that. So thanks for coming, everyone. I'll just tell you a little bit about me in the first instance. So I've had 30 years in sales. My God, 30 years, dear me. Show me age. And then I've sold lots of different things. So I've sold furniture and ice cream and gym memberships. I know it's weird, but bags of caterpillars. So on that note, I was in Thailand for 5 years, and I was working at a hotel, and there was a market stall. And in order to get the tourists to come up and try these caterpillars, they wanted another, like a English person, somebody that wasn't Thai, to actually eat the caterpillars and say, come on, try them. So they would try the caterpillars, and then buy the caterpillars off us. And yeah, so I ate caterpillars for a living. It was only 1 day a week, but to be honest, caterpillars do taste nice.
Oh, really?
What they do, you know, if there's any
Expecting that.
vegetarians in the room, apologies for that. Before Annika, I did 12 years at the Leicester Mercury. And yeah, that, as far as sales is concerned, just a story about when we hit COVID and we shut down, the whole world was locked down, and the kind of challenges you can get in sales from working there. They were asking, the management were asking us all to sell adverts to businesses, retailers, to say that they were closed, when obviously everybody knew everything was closed anyway. So, you know, that was sort of the time that I thought, yeah, I need to get a new job, because you've got to believe in what you sell. So that's when I rang Anne and said, it's your lucky day. First refusal to take me on. So I was still at that point selling myself, and the rest is history. I've been at Annika for about 2.5 years now. Still loving it. Best job I've ever had.
Though it's one of those things, people aren't always comfortable selling themselves necessarily.
I think people don't even realise that they're selling themselves because what will go on to, Katie, is that actually the qualities of a salesperson are very much, you know, things that, you know, empathy and humility, and people have got yeah, that's it. So, you know, it's actually quite natural. People don't actually realize that they're selling when they are selling, and that's usually the best type of salesperson. If you really being a hard seller, then people don't like that anyway. So if you're genuine, and you
people sell to people, I'll stand by that one way or another. So okay, sorry, shouldn't be interrupting.
No, please chip in. So I've got a passion for business knowledge, which is why this job's perfect for me, because I get to meet so many different types of businesses through my working week. Yesterday I met with an electrical showroom. I met with a company that was had fire sprinklers, and then getting underneath the skin of those businesses and finding out what makes them tick and what their business model is. It's just, you know, it fascinates me. So it's great. I'm a news junkie, so watch the news every day. I've got my up day on my phone. I have alerts from Business Live, which is there's a Business Live East Midlands, but they've also got Business Lives for commercial news, for manufacturing news, and I get my insights every day. And that can affect who I actually call and what's happening in the news. Say there's like a big, you know, the economic climate, for example, will affect who I would approach in sales. So my hobbies, I love Newcastle United, and we're doing really well at the minute. We're third in the league. That's fantastic. I love cooking, especially Thai food, and I love traveling. I haven't traveled for a while abroad, but I can't wait to get back into it in the new year. And I've just put that little bullet point at the bottom because I'm really into the World Cup at the minute, and I'm just hoping it's coming home this time. We'll see what happens.
Oh, it would be amazing.
Yeah. It's a good talking point as well at the minute. Everyone's into it. So, yeah. What we're going to go through today, what makes a great salesperson, getting out and about, customer care and selling, spotting opportunities, commercial questioning, and marginal gains. So without further ado, is sales a dirty word? No, it's not. So people think about sales sometimes as a dirty word, and they think that they don't like to be sold to. But in reality, if you think about the last thing you bought, you know, as opposed to supermarkets and just quick buys, you can think, did you enjoy that person selling to you? So it's like, people often think about, you know, a car salesman and people that are flash and the big I am. But actually, when you think about when you were sold to last, you've probably had a good experience. I'm proud to be a salesperson, and I get paid. I get paid for doing something that I absolutely adore and love. And if you feel like sales is a word that, oh, I can't sell, and I've heard this in our own organization, you know, I don't like sales, I don't like selling themselves, but actually, if you replace the word sales with the fact that you're trying to help a business or consumer with a challenge or problem or need, then actually that's a positive thing. So you shouldn't really worry about selling. The only sort of caveat to that is don't ever sell anything that you don't believe in. So yeah, if you're doing that, you'll come across false. It's not natural, and you've got to believe in the product or service.
You can always read people and tell, can't you, if they don't believe in it? I was saying.
Definitely. And if you have had a bad sales experience, it's probably for that reason. But yeah, our team at Annika, when I've done one-to-one sales training with them, that their first thing is that they don't feel that they can sell, they don't feel that they're proficient in sales. But then when we've got through, say, an hour session, they start to believe that, well, actually, I'm selling already. I'm always selling on a day-to-day basis. And it's basically that your sales force goes beyond business development or a sales title. Your whole team is your sales force, and you need to be leveraging teaching them so that they can be more proficient to get marginal gains to improve your sales and your bottom line at the end of the day. So moving on, what are the qualities of a great salesperson? So a desire to help, it's to get under the skin. You can't help a business until you find out what their need is or what their challenges are. And you need to uncover that need and to be able to help them with the solution. Now, if you can help them with the solution, solve them a problem, give them value in what because you're charging money for this service or this product. If you can solve their problem, then you've given them that value, you've given them that benefit. So, you know, it's win-win for you and them. Every sale should be a win-win for both of you. So empathy like facilitates chemistry. So a potential customer could be of the opinion that you're on the same team. They imagine working with you, and it builds a sense of togetherness with that potential client or customer. So understand and, you know, have empathy with that person. Humility. So people don't want to work. I said before about like that car salesman sort of persona, but people don't want to work with the big I am, with somebody arrogant. You need somebody who's humble. And if you talk, if you're doing most of the talking as well, the prospect will think that you're not interested in them and you're just interested in yourself. And humility also, I would say, maybe even self-deprecation and putting your hand up when you don't understand something, or explaining when you can't answer their question that you'll go back to them, for example. So that honesty and humility comes across, and then people will want to buy off you. And then persistence. So people, it's when people say no. So when I worked at the Leicester Mercury, for example, I talked to people every few months, and it was a no, but it wasn't a no, not ever. It was just a no, not now. It wasn't the right time for them. So I've had sales where I've been speaking to companies for 5 years, and then the timing came right. I remember Watling JCB over in Desford, and we had a sponsor. It was a long time ago, but it was when Alliance and Leicester became Santander, and they had sponsored the sports awards for about 10 years. And they let us down about 10 days before the awards. And it snowed so heavy that Watling JCB with their diggers had a lot of work from airports, clearing runways and stuff like that. and he was so into sport, and I knew this from having spoken to the guy for the last 5 years. And so I rang him, and he'd had such a good year, like good Christmas time through the snow. And he was so passionate about sport that was the right time for him to advertise with us. So just to remember that it's not a no, not ever. Just find out when that prospect may be in the market for your services next, and then schedule a call. For business owners as well, it's a question of not being too proud. So if somebody says no, you could get the ump and say, oh, why, they don't want to work with us, so almost like stuff them. But it's not the attitude. Because you're so proud of your business, you should actually, if you do go back to those people in the future, it was nothing personal. There'll be a good reason that they didn't buy off you at that point.
It's also having the money and the budgets as well, isn't it, Ange? And realising that, a service may help you, or a product is going to be useful.
Yeah, there's budgets. There's they could have gone to the competition for good reason.
Yeah.
It could be wrong timing for them because there's other priorities in the business. And it could be your fault. It could be that you missed the brief, or you missed something in the conversation, or you didn't actually uncover that need in the first place. So it's always quite important to reflect when somebody does say no, to work out, is there something that you could have done differently? And then you're just improving your sales ability for the next time that you have a meeting or a call or an opportunity to sell. Salespeople as well are always target driven. And Annika is all about KPIs anyway, because with all of our clients, we discuss what they need to achieve in certain time periods, short term and long term. But KPIs are important in sales because it's something to strive to. And then when you hit those targets, it's a buzz. It really is. And if you're not in sales, it's still a buzz when you get a sale. So I can tell you that for a fact from our own almost sales team, even though they're the technical team. When something comes through, if they've been on a pitch and helped me out, they're absolutely buzzing when something comes through. Confidence is important, and you should know your product and service inside out. It's hard for me to know everything because things are changing so much in the digital landscape, but I try to keep on top of my game and go to these webinars, which help me. But if you've got a product or service which has maybe legislation that changes, or you need to, there's other products similar coming on the market, you need to know your product and service inside out, and that will bring you that confidence that you need for a sale. Sometimes you get thrown a curveball though. And what I'd say to that again is just do not blag the answer, because it's just the worst thing you can do. That going back to that humility, you're best off to find out what the real answer is and get back to that person. The next quality is reciprocity. So what a word. It's hard to say actually. But givers gain. It's the strapline of a networking group called BNI. I don't know whether you guys in the room know BNI, but it's absolutely true. So it's just a constant thing where that person that you meet from a business perspective might not be in the market for your goods or services, but they might have a need for something else. So if you help them with that, or you can introduce them to somebody that does help them with that, then they'll remember that kindness in the future, and then they'll reciprocate. So what it should be a natural thing that good people do anyway. It's karma. What if you can give, then you're much likely to get back. But it's better to give in the first instance. And then humor, because if people are going, if you're selling something where it's a long-term sale, where it's a service and you're going to be working with them, then those people that you're selling to want to think that they're going to be able to have a bit of fun with you. It's not going to be a pain. It's going to be a laugh. work shouldn't insert, work doesn't have to be hard work. It can be fun. So when you're selling a product, throwing a bit of humor into the actual sale in the first instance, you just get them on board more. So yeah, that's what the qualities are of a good salesperson, whether they be in sales or not in sales. So moving on.
Getting out and about.
Yeah. Now we are getting out and about, and it's so much better. And it was a struggle for a lot of people through COVID, like all the virtual. But now that we're actually attending events and networking, etc., it's back to the good old days. It's one of those where there's a lot of people post-COVID that are still a little bit nervous about getting out and about. And I do understand that from a personal perspective. But if you can just try and push yourself to get to an event, I think hopefully what you'll find is that you will actually enjoy it and see the benefits for the business as well. So networking, there's lots of local events happening, and if you do regular networking, you do become part of the cities or the community, the business community of the city that you're in. What I would recommend with networking though is, rather than flitting about from one group to another, if you meet somebody once, you're not going to be able to build a relationship. So it's good with networking to stick to the same groups so that you can build those relationships. And then expos. So whether you go either as an exhibitor or a delegate, but if you do go as a delegate, what I would say is plan your approach, because if you're approaching exhibitors who paid for their stand, for example, and you're trying to sell to them when they've paid to sell to the delegates, it can be a bit orcs. It can be, it's not what they're there for. So you have to be sensitive to that. So with that, I mean, myself and my colleague Tom, we visited a construction exhibition about a month ago, and we weren't buying anything there, but we were speaking to them about them attending an absolutely free webinar, which would give them insights into the competitive landscape in their industry. So the approach was offering them something quite valuable for free, which was a nurturing approach to a sale. It wasn't a hard sell at all. So that it's just a question of thinking. That was just an example, but thinking about if you are going as a delegate, how you can approach if you are trying to sell without being too hardcore. But actually exhibiting is probably a better approach. We went to a conference about, again, a month ago, myself, Anne and Matt, and it was the Technology for Marketing conference. It was exhibition, sorry, and we never stopped. It was so busy. So actually finding those sector-specific exhibitions and attending them as exhibitors, I would thoroughly recommend. And the amount of you usually get a delegate list afterwards as well if you pay for that, and that's worth for the follow-up. Then conferences. So to attend conferences to gain that knowledge in your industry, perhaps, or be a thought leader at a conference and do speaking. But some people do get funny about speaking at a conference when they, what am I trying to say? When their peers and people from their industry are there, because they're thinking they're giving away their best secrets. But actually, I think you're just telling them stuff. They have to go away and walk the walk, if you like. So I don't think that should be a problem. It's, they can get a lot of knowledge through Google, but it's just the fact that you impart that knowledge, but then it's what they do with it when they go away. So also associations. So relevant to your target market. Again, that is to gather more knowledge into your sector and sectors that are your target market, but also to network and find out more about what's happening in the sector. So when you're on a call, again, I'll go back to construction. We're a member because that's one of our preferred sectors to work with. So we're members of a couple of associations, and through those associations, we can market to them. We can find out information, that things that are pain points in the sector. We can, so that we've got absolutely more knowledge when we got on a call, and people get more confidence that we know what we're talking about within their industry. Attending award ceremonies as well. So people are totally on a high when they've won an award, for example. And if you were to call a potential customer who's won an award, it's not quite the same if you're congratulating them and you didn't attend that ceremony, and you can't impart your experience at that ceremony, seeing them get their award, for example. So attending ceremonies would be a good place to get out and about too. Down the pub, that's good, because I'm giving you all an excuse to get down the pub. But if you think about it, all your friends and your family and people that you meet out and about, they all work somewhere. So it's a potential new customer. They could be in the market for your business, or know somebody that's in the market for what you do, or what you sell. And I had a friend who was a recruitment consultant in Leicester, and he used to say to me that he got about 80% of his business down the pub. Now, to me, he must have spent at least 50% of his time down the pub. So I don't know whether that's a good thing. But he literally said that he was top salesman, and recruitment's really competitive industry. And he literally got a lot of his leads from friends, family, down the pub. And yeah, it's just everybody is either a potential salesperson or knows somebody that might be in the market for your service. And it's one of those questions that always comes up when you first meet somebody, doesn't it? Like, it's, you always sort of say, oh, so what do you do for a living? And that they're giving you the opportunity to sell what you do, to find out if they're in the market.
I think, Ange, as well, from my perspective, I've met a lot of people like through my kids' hobbies as well, like grassroots football and things that I've done along the way. So it's a different kind of analogy to down the pub, but it's just kind of talking to people, isn't it? And
that just shows the difference between me and you, Katie, because you can tell I ain't got kids and you have. So
it's not that well.
It's true. Yeah, it's absolutely right. I mean, Katie, you are a part of a group which is called a WhatsApp group called Mums in Marketing. And
yeah, I am.
You know, it's that you made friends on that group, and you got leads through that. And then we're in the position now where next week we're going to be pitching to one of the people that you were talking to through that group. So it's just exactly the same thing. It's everybody that you meet, it's an opportunity to tell them how great your service or product is.
I'm just turning my camera back on as well. I also recently was working on a tender, and I needed a quick answer to something, and I could message out to someone I'm quite close to, but met through the kids as well. So it's it's interesting, isn't it? Where you meet people. Okay.
Absolutely. So customer care is selling. Yes. So going over and above the call of duty is a funny one for me, because you'll never be able to go over and above the call of duty if you oversell your product or service in the first place. So it's a question of managing those expectations with potential clients. So don't oversell to people, because people will just get disappointed when you don't meet the mark. And if you do manage those expectations, it's quite easy to go over and above the call of duty. And it doesn't take much to do that. It's like the small touches and the marginal things that you can do that will impress and be remembered when it comes to perhaps contract renewal or an upsell. And our staff do this without thinking. I can think, there's unrelated challenges. So flipping it around, a couple of people that I was selling to, when I had a bad back, they recommended certain osteopaths, etc. So it's like thinking, what is it that you can help those people with that's not actually related to anything that you do or sell? it's just helping people back it out. It just sort of goes back to that whole givers gain, reciprocity, that whole karma thing as well. The other thing is, it's something. It's. I wish I'd done a poll on this now at the beginning, but picking up the phone, I put that as a point because it's a dying thing. I don't think it happens so much anymore, but actually, people do like to talk, and people. I think post COVID and because of COVID, perhaps people don't talk so much and maybe hide behind emails more. But I think what I try to do is when I'm writing an email, I think, could this be a phone call? And actually picking up the phone and having that conversation, it builds the relationship. So it's, and I do believe, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I believe that it affects a certain age group. So those that have grown up with social media, for example, text more rather than pick up the phone and speak to people. But I think it is definitely a marginal gain that you could have by picking up the phone and having a conversation with your clients, being current clients, potential clients, or people that you're selling your products to. It goes a long way. So renewals and upselling, what it goes back again to managing expectations, I suppose. But I'd explained that we have KPIs at Annika. So what we would do is set KPIs or what we wanted to achieve from the outset. And then when it comes to that renewal, you can actually prove, you can go back to saying, this was what we'd said right at the beginning. And when it comes to the renewal, we can say, well, we achieved that for you. And then it's a lot easier to upsell or renew to somebody. In digital marketing in particular, however, there's often external things that would affect those KPIs. So I remember a couple of months ago, it was the bottom had fell out of e-commerce. So all of a sudden the search volumes for e-commerce search terms had just fell through the floor. And that would have affected half of our clients' KPIs because people, and I think it was just simply year on year, a post-COVID thing. People were getting out and about more, but it's just, again, all the way through managing people's expectations. And then always have the customer's best interests at heart, because you don't ever sell anything that's not good for them. You're selling things that are going to add them value. If you ever try to sell something because, and I'll be honest, I've been guilty of it in my last job, where this is an incentive to sell this particular product, and if it's not right for the customer, then just don't even go there. So just, if you look after the customer will look after you. And that's why a lot of Annika's clients, which are 40 strong right now, a lot of them, 5, 6, 7, 8 years into the actual project with us. So they keep renewing because we look after them. So I'm just hoping I get away with this because the dog's just come in the room. I'm hoping nobody knocks on the door and she goes crazy. So see how we get on. So spotting opportunities, it sort of all ties in with sales. So that getting out and about does spot opportunities. But LinkedIn, wow, I mean, the amount of business that we've won through LinkedIn's pretty insane. So it's just looking out for for me personally, it's looking out for marketing managers who've moved businesses, recruitment posts for people that are looking for PPC managers, for example. But I'm sure you can take that and actually that example and relate that to your own business as to how you can leverage opportunities through LinkedIn. There's also something that you can pay for through LinkedIn called Sales Navigator. And I think we've done a webinar, it must have been about 2 years ago now, about how to improve your profile on LinkedIn, and it goes into Sales Navigator. So if anybody wants to know how that could give you more leads for the business, then just pop onto our webinar tab on the website, and you can have a look at that webinar. I think it was Caroline Spence who did that for us. So get loads of opportunities off LinkedIn. And then asking for referrals. So the thing is with asking for referrals, if you're doing a great job for your client, or if you've sold them something, a product which they've really enjoyed using, or they've got a lot of value out of that, then, you know, what happens when you sell somebody something is then they reaffirm their buying decision by telling people about your product or service, because they don't want to go around saying, oh, I bought this, it was rubbish. What they're going to say is, I bought this, it's brilliant, you know, best thing I bought or best thing I did. So when they're at their peak and happy with your product or service, that's the time to ask for referrals. So referrals, that a lot of the time, you know, people lead very busy lives. And if you weren't to ask for those referrals, they might not be forthcoming. But actually, if you ask for the referrals and you say, what could, you know, who is it that you know in business that I could help the same as I've helped you, then that gets their brain ticking over to thinking about, all right, who do I know actually? So, yeah, always ask for referrals, testimonials, and ask for, you know, if we can write case studies, if it's appropriate. It's appropriate for our business and probably appropriate for most. So yeah, definitely referrals. For every person I ask for a referral, I reckon I get at least one referral off them. And if I was to close half of those referrals, then you've just doubled your client base, for example. So yeah, or at least if we have 40 clients, that would double it to 60, for example. So yeah, it's a warmer lead when a client of yours refers you to somebody too. And call planning and research as well. So opportunities with current clients could be, for me, for example, before a call, I'll look at their newsletters to find out, have they won any awards or have they got any new products? And then those things that, if you're planning your calls and doing the research before you get into a meeting with them, then it shows that you've looked into their business, but it also could show that, oh, for example, you've won this award. That's a great PR opportunity. And we could upsell a bit of PR into that, which is obviously of benefit to the client. So again, an absolute win-win in that respect. So always have a look before you're going into a meeting or call to see what that business has been up to. Look on their LinkedIn, of course, as well. Opportunities in the news. So things that are topical. In my last job, topical things could be when selling newspaper advertising back in the day. Well, newspapers aren't really a thing anymore, but obviously seasonality of things, selling to garden centres in spring, for example. In the news for the cost of living crisis right now, for example, it may be that I would go to energy companies to promote certain things, or I'd go to fast moving goods that are good value. You know, the likes of your pound stretchers or the likes, they're the kind of people, based on what I'm seeing in the news, that I might be approaching. And I'll be looking at both commercial news and the wider world news as well. But yeah, there's all sorts of opportunities that just listening to Good Morning Britain, to be honest with you, that spring to mind. And then trends. So the trends that we're very, very lucky as an agency that we invest in a lot of tools that will show us trends within sectors and industries. And this is something that we can help with if you want us to, if you've got a target market, for example, and you want to see what the trends are for that target market compared to their competitors or as an industry, whether they're getting a lot of people through to their website, then and where they're spending their money, on what platforms. We can look at those trends in my job and then work out what are the best industries to work with. So that's spotting opportunities through our tools. Now I think about it, Katie, I don't know whether those trends are, I don't think we can, don't know whether that relates to all industries to spot trends or whether it's just in Annika or digital marketing.
I don't know. I think anywhere I've ever worked, it's about creating opportunities, isn't it? And looking at the wider world and seeing how things are moving on. There's a lot of, like look at Netflix versus Blockbuster and the way things have emerged. It's just interesting. Hindsight's a great thing.
Yeah. And then commercial questioning. So it's just one of those things where I think people do this. They ask commercial questions, especially in the B2B world, but they don't necessarily have a structure. And then if there's no structure to commercial questioning, that's when maybe things can get missed. So that what's up at the start, it's not one of the questions you ask. It's an acronym, so don't worry. So the acronym what's up stands for what do they do? What do you sell? What do you do? What is your business? How do you sell it? What areas do you sell it in? What's the target market for your product or service? What are your short-term goals as a business? What's your USP? And what are your plans for the future? So that's what's up. Or if you're asking all those questions in a structure, what you will find is that although you'll go off into tangents because of the answers that you're getting back, at least you can get down to the bottom of the P in what's up by the end, and you'll have a really broad view of exactly what that business is all about and what that business model is. So that, you'll always go off on tangents, but that's a good thing. And what you'll notice is that they're all very open questions. It's questions that aren't a yes or no answer. So when you're selling, an open question is better than a closed question. The figures as well. So in order to get under the skin of a client, you maybe need to find out things like what are their average order values, what is their lifetime value of a customer, and what are the conversion rates on their website, what are their profit margins. That's the kind of questions I ask. But for other clients, it could be, productivity. If you're selling a CNC machine, for example, it's like working out what questions you have to ask to be able to sell the value of the CNC machine. Is it going to save them time? Is it going to, how much money, if that CNC machine was working for the length of the business opening hours, how much money that's going to make the business compared to how much it's going to cost them? So it's just working out what are the figures of the business that you need to find out to be able to sell your product or service. And then a good question is always to ask, what does success look like? So, or what value does this product or service give to you? And let them sell it to themselves almost. So that's a little trick. When I worked in the health and fitness industry, people, it's a funny one because people often join a gym in January and go 6 times. But I would turn it around and say to the potential new member, if you can't come 3 times a week and commit to 45 minutes of exercise, then you can't join the club because it's not going to work for you. And so they sold it back to themselves by saying, I will do it. I'm going to do it. I'm determined. So they were almost selling it to themselves, if that makes sense. It was a great job. I loved it. The MAN is another acronym. So MAN, it stands for, does the person that you're speaking to have the money, the authority and the need. So it's not a sexist turn the man. It's just making sure that you're speaking to the right person. But on the flip side, that for me, it's, I think that every single person in a business is just as important because we're all people. So whether you're the cleaner in a business or you're the MD, you should treat every single person that you're speaking to in that business with the same respect. And when I'm talking about those long haul sales where they've said no a lot of times, you actually build up the relationships with the gatekeeper or the person that's sort of making sure that you can't get through to the person that you need to speak to. So although in the long term, you need to be speaking to the man, in the short term and long term, you need to give every single person in that business the same level of respect, which doesn't always happen, but something that I believe thoroughly in. So in every meeting or call with your commercial questioning, if you cannot establish a need, if you cannot see what their challenges are or see what that business's pain point is, you will not sell that product or service. If you ask the right questions, you will get that need, you will derive that need out of them. And then once you've got that need, and that's what I would call the golden nugget, once you've got that golden nugget, that need, that challenge, and you repeat it back to them and you get that person to say, yes, that is right, I have got that need, the rest of the sale is really easy. So that's like one of the top tips, because you're going to fall down and never be able to sell unless you can. If you finish a call and haven't got that far, then it's probably not going to happen. Budget too. Don't be scared of cost. I'm not. I spoke to a lady the other day. She was absolutely fab. She's got a brand new product, and she's been referred by University of Leicester to Annika to help with our marketing. And you know what? She couldn't afford us, and because of where we work with the size of businesses, and she's just a startup. But we established that really early on, that she, but the thing is that it's not a question of if they're not if the person you're speaking to hasn't got the budget for your product or service, that doesn't mean that quickly move on, because actually I spent half an hour on the phone trying to advise this woman on, with the little budget she had, should she be doing from a digital marketing perspective. And she'll remember that. And again, it goes back full circle to the reciprocity. So in 6, 12 months, 18 months, she could have grown that business through the advice that we've given her to a level where she could be in the market for our services at that point. So it's good definitely to establish a budget to find out if somebody can afford your product or service. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you should just wash your hands and leave it there.
It's building a reputation, isn't it? Growing your branches out. And I think it's remarkable who knows who in life as well.
I totally agree. It's just be kind, be nice to everyone, help people, and it's just all going to come back to you. And
a lot of what you're saying reminds me of a book that I read called The Look Factor years ago. It does remind me, it's a lot of this.
Yeah. So. And it really does, it's the business's reputation. So every single person, your whole sales force, which is every single member of your team, is an advocate of that business. And it's really all about giving back, I hate this word because I can never say it, but philanthropic, really trying to help people go over and above the call of duty. And it just always comes back to you. So just put budget in there. It is important to establish the budget, but at the same time, doesn't mean that you just wash your hands at that point, because they will remember you. And then just a few extra things. We've already actually spoke about LinkedIn. If you want your team to be your sales force, it would be good to give them incentives. So at Annika, just to give you an example, we work on a point system and we reward people for certain things. And one of those things, which is a marginal gain, is doing these webinars. So they'll earn points for making a case study or giving a lead for our team. They may see that a marketing manager's moved to a different business, and then that's okay, a lead to me. And they don't have to sell it, but the fact that they've given that lead means that they gain points, and that those incentives, if you relate them to your own business, it could be a monetary incentive, it could be a time off, or it could be a gift voucher, but it doesn't always have to be something massive. It could be something quite small. And it's just nice that your staff feel that they're appreciated, and it makes for you know, as far as the company culture is concerned, looking after your business, you know, everyone's a winner. So it incentivizes them to help with all the little marginal gains that we can make as a business. So to affect your bottom line at the end of the day. And then if you have one-to-ones with your team, it's always good to bring a commercial aspect into that one-to-one. So it doesn't, you know, it can just be 2 or 3 questions in the grand scheme of things, asking them how they, you know, in most one-to-ones, you're asking them how they're coping with their work, how they are personally, making sure they're still happy with their work, any problems that they're coming across, but always bring in like a sales aspect, perhaps like discussing the clients, how you can upsell a certain client, how you, you know, what problems, and sales are problems and solutions. So if they have any problems, coming up with those solutions so that they can make those beyond the call of duty sort of things, which are the small things that add to every sale. Mm-hmm. And then we mentioned before, I've been a bit repetitive on this slide actually, so preparing for meetings in advance, just taking that time out, 10 minutes, instead of rushing to the next call, which we can all
I agree with that. It always comes across.
Oh, absolutely. We're all very busy, but if what is the, before you're going into a meeting, you need to know, what is the purpose of this meeting? What do I want to get out of this meeting? Mm-hmm. Have I prepped this meeting where I understand what the brief is or what the client wants? Have I checked that company's website? And it's literally, even if it's 5 minutes instead of 10, it's better than nothing, because you know, we're not perfect and we've all been guilty of it, but it is just absolute best practice to prep for every meeting before you go in. Mm-hmm. And again, this is a time factor. It's all about time management. It's focusing on the quality and not the quantity. So, you know, people can be busy fools, and you know, it's like you're rushing to get as many pitches out there as possible or sell as many of those products as possible, and then you don't give the quality and the time to each individual person. And
it boils down to retaining people long term as well, doesn't it? You've got to maintain the quality.
Yeah, if you're doing half a job, it'll come across, and your conversion rates are going to go down, your renewal rates are going to go down, your retention rates are going to go down. So if you just,
sometimes you spend so much money getting people new to file as well.
Yeah, it might be, if you feel that you are rushing with the quantity and you're not giving the quality, it might be time to think about recruitment, you know. So because you know, half a job, it's no good. And also, when you're selling, it goes back to that question asking. In my job, it should be 80% of the time on a call would be the client actually speaking, and 20% would be me. And that's in the original fact find call. And then perhaps it would flip on its head when you're actually proposing something. But it's just that thing where you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them in that proportion almost. So it's just important. People do like talking about themselves and their businesses because that's what their passion is. And
it's what they spend a lot of their life doing, isn't it?
That's right. And if you're, I mean, I could talk about my business. I say mine because I work as if it is my own. But,
you do.
But yeah, I could talk about Annika with the most passion for so long. And actually, if I'm asking businesses all those questions, I'm really getting under the skin of their business. And then that way I can really help them in the most positive way and give them that quality if I've asked all those correct questions in the first place. And then the importance of building relationships. It just, you know, it doesn't have to be somebody that you is a client necessarily, but it's just, you know, through networking, through people. We build relationships with other digital marketing agencies. We build relationships with web developers, and we get a lot of referrals and working partnerships from people who perhaps work in the Amazon marketplace. That's their speciality, but they don't do anything in PPC, or people that are doing web hosting but don't do anything in SEO. So it's building those relationships and seeing who you can partner with to gain more business. I mentioned this last one as well before, which was what could you have done differently? Always reflect. Just, you know, if you might have missed the brief, you might have not prepared for a call, you might have not done anything differently, and it was actually that client just didn't have the budget, or, you know, it wasn't the right time for them. But if you reflect as to why something hasn't gone quite the way it should have, it could be the biggest one, which from one of the slides before is you didn't establish the need in the first place. So you were already setting yourself up to fail. But always reflect, because when we're talking about sales training, you will learn from your mistakes. You're learning on the job constantly and on the go. So I think I've done pretty.
We've had a few questions actually.
Okay, I'm just going to 58, so that's good.
Put a few things out there. Obviously, Angie's put a lot of heart and soul into this. So if you could leave us a review, I'm just putting them out there. That would be wonderful. Obviously, I think we've heard today about the importance of, well, the reciprocal nature of mankind type stuff. Yes. So one question we've answered was, which trend tools do you pay for and use? And answered, we use SimilarWeb to give us competitor insights for specific competitors or industry groups. Yeah. So that was one, so that's done. But Ryan said, how do you ensure you have quality and purposeful conversations when you have targets in place to achieve a certain number of calls in a given period?
It's so hard, Ryan. It is so hard. It
depends. It's timing as well, isn't it? You know,
you say, I worked for a PLC, Ryan. Yeah, I worked for a PLC for 12 years. And if you're given unrealistic targets, it's so hard. I'm very, very lucky to work for Annika because the targets that I have are realistic, and it's good to have targets and KPIs and a number of calls and a number of appointments, but they have to be realistic. So all I'll say, Ryan, is on an individual basis, I'm hoping that whatever business you work for, the targets are realistic and they're agreed. If they're not, it's one of them. You're not going to give, if they're not realistic targets, you're not going to be able to give that quality. Yeah, you're not going to be able to give that quality. So it's a question of talking to your manager, perhaps, to say these targets are unrealistic. But I suppose the bigger the business, sometimes the more unrealistic the target is. But it's setting those benchmarks. in a realistic manner in the first place should mean that you would be able to give that quality and ensure that you're having that purposeful conversation. Hopefully, I'm hoping you're not between a rock and a hard place when it comes to that.
Got quite a long one here as well. So we have a lot of social media leads, click for more information or request a quote type of links. Some can be quite cold and we get a lot of no answer on calls. Our current model is a few calls and 2 emails over a week or so. Do you think this is too much for a coldish lead? Any tips trying to get a more positive response, as I'm conscious of not being the badgering desperate salesperson? I've got some ideas on that, actually.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so having done a lot of the HubSpot qualifications, just prospecting and giving people information, and things that they actually are looking for can be really helpful to others. I don't obviously know what your business is, Rebecca, but it's kind of being useful to them. So thinking outside of the box, maybe. I mean, obviously, we've got these webinar programs. So, for example, Ange could say, oh, you might want to look at this for free and then follow, there's, what do you have in your armor? I call it.
What's the hook?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you want to expand on that, Ange.
I'll tell you, we've found, well, as far as number of calls, it depends what you're selling, to be honest. It's, I would say, business by business basis. But what I found has worked quite well if we haven't got answers to calls is texting.
Yeah. Because
people don't listen to voicemails anymore. Back in the day, I don't listen to voicemails anymore. I don't know about the room, but I see a missed call and I'll either ring that person back or I won't. Now, if it's a sales...
I tend to Google a bit because I'm getting a lot of spammy calls at the moment as well.
Yeah, but what I would do is, so they don't know who's ringing necessarily. So they've already requested a quote, but they don't recognise the number that it's come through on. And a lot of people nowadays don't answer a call that they don't recognise. But if you actually text message and say, and especially, I don't know whether everyone noticed on Black Friday, it just went mental. I think I had over 100 emails, just spam. So emails can get lost in the plethora, but actually text messages, if you're ringing them and you're willing to call them from like a one-on-one perspective, if you were to send those texts and you were to maybe try and personalize them slightly rather than have them be like a blanket text like you get from Domino's on a Tuesday, say 50% off Domino's Tuesday. If it was going to be like quite personal, that text, I would try that, Rebecca. See how you get on with that.
Yeah, I think it's, I remember years ago going to a conference and they talked about in your life, they tracked a train journey down to London and then looked at all the different touch points a person has. And I think it was like an average of like 17, 18, and that was a while ago. And it's just kind of being aware of people are so overstimulated in life, aren't they? And it's doing things that are going to stand out and meet them in their own way. So a lot of like setting preferences of how people want to be contacted. I like a text message, I have to say. People are doing WhatsApp more these days.
Oh, definitely WhatsApp, yeah.
So many different things and, methodologies to try, I think. Well, I think that's it, actually. I think we're coming to a close. The video from today will be available on Catch Up. It'll take a few hours just for us to send that out. Obviously, the handouts have been shared, so make sure you download those before you leave. But it's been a really great session, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and thanks to everyone for attending.
And I learned something new. I just never knew that you once sold caterpillars in Thailand. So I think that's really cool.